This is the Jae Choe Show, brought to you by Karate Beyond. Discipline, focus, confidence. KarateBeyond.com. Let's begin.
And so,
Is that affecting
yeah,
your voice?
I basically yell all day long. In order to project.
Hey, that's my thing,
occupational
right?
hazard.
So yeah, I have a
in
lot
common.
in common in regards to being a teacher.
Oh well, you may certainly. Well, we should record.
No,
this,
it's
so.
okay. I'm recording now.
Oh, good,
this is
good,
this is
good.
this is this is all good. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
great.
And actually, if you want to, I mean, like literally, you're gonna kiss the mic essentially. Yeah.
So yeah, Jay, you and I have a lot in common because I have not studied your discipline, but I was trained as a classical ballerina, as a dancer. And so I have tremendous respect for any discipline that requires excellence out of children because I think the training is exceptional. And so, yeah, I spend a lot of time helping kids now in my work at the Rise Institute at Lakeland Christian School understand what it is to work as hard as they can work. And that's an experience that's outside what a lot of kids
Right.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell my students at the dojo, I let them know, I ask them a question and I say, do you feel like you're a lucky person?
Mm-hmm.
And I say, raise your hand if you feel like you're a lucky person. And so you'll get like half the class that'll raise their hand right up. And then, the other half won't raise their hand. They don't feel like they're lucky. And I say, if you didn't raise your hand, I'm going to give you some news. You are extremely lucky. Do you know why? Because you are lucky enough to be at Karate Beyond at the dojo, have parents or family that's willing to pay the money, the good money, to bring you here. You live in Polk County, in the city of Lakeland, in the United States of America.
Amen.
And so you have won the life lottery. You have won the universe lottery of being privileged and lucky enough to be here now.
Absolutely.
So when I say that, the wheels start turning. And they're like, yeah, I'm very lucky. I'm extremely lucky.
And what comes out of that kind of, it's privilege. What comes out of that kind of privilege is a tremendous responsibility to figure out how you can use the one life you have to serve. And that's what I preach to my students. And, I think that's the responsibility that we have.
Right. Absolutely. I wake up more these days thinking about what more I want to do with myself, less about what I want to get, but more about what I want to do and contribute. Right,
Well,
that excites me.
congratulations, Jay. I
Excites
think you're
me
a
more.
grown-up.
I'm a grown up now. Thank goodness. It wasn't always like that, right? I think 40 hit, and I turned a corner, and I was like, there's a little bit more to it. Than me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My father-in-law just turned 88, and so I've been thinking a lot about, he seems so young, and you look back on his life, he was an educator, and then he was the chief of staff to then Senator Lawton Chiles and ran the kind of walk-in Lawton campaigns, which are storied in Florida political history, and you look back and the stories he has and the things he's done are just a reminder that one person in their lifetime can do an incredible amount of good, and that's what I think. That's certainly what I want to spend the rest of my life doing.
You're a busy individual. Now, I don't think we've ever met before. I'm going to adjust your mic real quick to get a little bit closer to you.
Sure.
I don't believe we've ever met before, but I know we have many mutual friends. And
It's because you're so much younger than I am, Jay.
I don't think so.
When did you graduate from high school?
Well, 94.
Okay. Okay, so I graduated in 91. So
Right.
you're younger enough, though, that
Right.
we wouldn't have run in exactly the same circles
Sure.
in high school.
Sure. Right. Tell us a little bit about what you're gunning for right now.
What I'm gunning for? Well, that's an interesting turn of phrase. So I am a candidate for the Florida House of Representatives, District 40. And District 40 is basically Lakeland. It's Lakeland plus a little bit to the west, out to County Line Road, a little bit to the south, 540 Ewell into 540A, the east over to 98, up Cumbie Road, and then it picks up Kathleen, which is great. I'm very happy that that's included because I'm a graduate of Kathleen High School. And so it is my goal to serve our community in the Florida House of Representatives.
I'm not a political individual, so I mean I'm very much clueless in terms of politics, and
See, that I don't believe.
I don't. Yeah, I'm
Not
not
for a
very good.
second.
I'm not educated in those things. I'm educated in a very social level of what's in my immediate, area.
But you're a small
right?
business owner.
Yeah. So when I think of House of Representatives, and I think of the Senate, right? And I think of a bunch of politicians at the Capitol voting on things. What exactly does a person in the House do?
That's a great question. And I will tell you that certainly people in the Florida House and the Florida Senate vote on things. That is true. But the thing that I'm the most excited about, and the thing that I think is really the greatest opportunity, is what's called constituent service. So what a person who takes on a role like that has is the opportunity to help people solve problems that they're having with government. So government is full, unfortunately, of red tape. It can be very, very challenging to get the answers you need. Sometimes you have a problem that you just can't make your way through to solving, and that is the part that I'm the most excited about. So certainly there are bills that are proposed and they make their way through, and you advocate for your own district. You become the head cheerleader along with the other members of the delegation, but you're the cheerleader for your district. So you have the privilege of building relationships and just looking for ways to allow positive things to happen here in Lakeland. And that's exciting to me. I was born in Lakeland. I've lived here with the exception of just a tiny little bit of time in college. And Charles, my husband, served in Tallahassee for a couple of years when we were married. And for the most part, this has been home my entire life.
Got it. Okay. Cheerleader for Lakeland, right? In terms of, you have to go up to the Capitol.
Yeah, so the way
Right.
it works is, and cheerleader, I was a cheerleader in high school. Very proud of that because I loved Kathleen High School and that experience. And so in addition to being a cheerleader, you are also kind of a warrior. You have to work really, really hard and to be a passionate advocate for the interests of the district. So the way it works is there are committee weeks, which actually last week was a committee week. And so there are weeks that are not during the legislative session where members of the legislature go to do the work to prepare. And then during the legislative session, you certainly have to be in Tallahassee, but you don't move to Tallahassee. And another thing that I love about the Florida legislature is the legislature is designed to allow people to continue doing their real job. And the reason that is so important, I think, is because it is so easy to get into an echo chamber and for sort of the voices of other politicians, I prefer the term public servant, but the other folks in the process, to make you forget why it is you were chosen by the people to go serve. And so I think it's a really great thing that people come back and they continue doing their real jobs and they live in the real world. And I think that's significant.
Okay. I was listening to another podcast where Tulsi Gabbard was on a podcast, and she said that being in the Capitol was like being in high school all over again. That there were cliques, and there were people that would hang out with one another and align themselves with each other, not based on principles or not based on having opinions on their individual opinions on certain things, but because they're part of a party or a faction of a party. And that, you would never exchange dialogue with someone that would be opposed to your ideas or very away from ideas that you or your group think may have. What are your thoughts on that?
So I'm a middle school and high school teacher. So I can talk to you a lot about cliques. And I can talk to you a lot about what I tell my students, and that is that success in much of life is about your ability to build positive relationships. It's easy to do that with people that are like you, but the challenge and the real opportunity is to build relationships with people that are different, and that's where that's when life gets exciting and full of zest and adventure.
You use the word exciting. You use the word exciting for something that is enormously difficult.
Sure. But, Jay, I don't spend a lot of my time doing easy things. I think that the opportunity is to go where the challenge is. So I am a conservative Republican. What I mean by that is that I believe that people tend to make wiser choices for themselves. Business people tend to make wiser choices for themselves. Individuals tend to make wiser choices for themselves than government does.
Yes.
And so that is a perspective that I don't apologize for. I think it is part of how I orient my thinking. So I'm going to go into conversations at the Florida Capitol or anywhere else advocating for people.
Right.
And the other thing that I think is true is that our job, if I have the privilege of being elected to the Florida House of Representatives, is to advocate for the region. So there are big decisions that need to be made for the state of Florida, but then there are also decisions that impact us very significantly here in Central Florida.
Talk to us about that.
Well, so this is Imperial Polk County. And do you know the story of why, how that name came? So it came because, like Rome, all roads led to Polk County. And so as we think about these big issues that impact us, whether it's looking at transportation and trying to make sure that we get our fair share when it comes to transportation dollars, and also long-term planning, or whether we're talking about clean water and the impact that has on us, we look at issues related to growth. There are big things out there now, and they will be increasing in the years to come, that require a strong voice. And let me say, you asked about factions and things like that. If I had the privilege of being elected to the Florida House of Representatives, my job is to be good at my job. So the best way that I can serve the people of District 40 is to become a person who is extremely knowledgeable about the issues, who has strong relationships all around the state. The better I am at that, the more effective I am for the people. I serve on 2 statewide commissions. I serve on the Florida Commission on the Status of Women, and I serve on the Women's Suffrage Centennial Commission. And so I've had over the last, 4 or 5 years, some really neat opportunities to build relationships across the state. And that part is really important. And I think it's important, you know how that works in business. I think most people understand how that works in personal relationships. But the idea that we are just going to be kind or just going to be gracious to people that are like us is, I think, the absolute wrong approach.
Got it. Okay. You mentioned clean water. Is that I never thought of Polk County or the city of Lakeland being under any threat of not having clean water. What do you mean by that?
So when I'm talking about water, I'm talking about the issues that are related to growth and development. This is an incredibly fast growing part of the state. And so we have issues related to water that impact us potentially as we look toward the future and growth. Issues that we care a lot about. We certainly don't have coastline here in the center of the state, but we sure care about it. And so what happens with Lake Okeechobee, issues related to water impact the entire state. Certainly tourism does. The eastern part of Polk County is home to a lot of folks who work in the tourism industry. And so those are the kinds of statewide issues that I'm talking about that we sure better care about. And I believe that leadership in the House does care about those issues. And we've seen very significant movement there. And I think we'll continue to in this session.
When I think of conservative Republican, you described it. Small government, more, power to the people to make the decisions, lower taxes. Is that still true in the Republican Party? How much of the Trump administration has changed a lot about what Republicans are?
I can't really speak to that as much as I can tell you what I think.
Sure.
I certainly can't speak for him. But what I can say is that I think that most Republicans continue to care a lot about the things that Republicans have historically cared about. And I think Trump tapped into something really significant, and that was that people want action. They care a lot about where the rubber meets the road. And I think some of the frustration that is so evident is when there was a belief that politicians were really just kind of out for themselves and they really weren't focused on serving the people. And, one of the things I think you need to know about me is that I've got this funny thing about work. I love to work. My days start really early, and
I heard you don't get much sleep.
Well,
someone I can't remember who was it I was speaking to. They says that lady doesn't need sleep.
Yeah, I don't know, Jay.
It was a compliment. I'm telling you. Yeah.
I'll tell you, I just get a lot of energy from making things happen. And I am passionate about a lot of things. The program that I run is really kind of a rapid prototyping lab for education innovation. I'm interested in how to help kids become everything that they can be. And I believe everybody deserves a shot at, it may sound old-fashioned, but a shot at the American dream. And I care a lot about making sure that happens. So this
is through RISE.
Yeah,
right.
through through Rise, because that's where my particular area of service has been for the last 15 years. But broader than that, and one of the reasons why I'm running for the Florida House of Representatives is because it's not just about what I do with a fairly small group of kids. It's about opening up opportunity, and it's about what I've learned over the last 15 years. I have a master's degree in special education, and I care a lot about opening up opportunity for families in the state of Florida. And I think education is a huge part of that. But I just don't, I've got a problem with just talking about it. I'm really interested in the doing of it.
Got
and
it.
So, and so we do a lot of things, a lot of really diverse things. So I work with kids who do scientific research and work with university level partners to do all kinds of really fascinating work. And I work with kids who build robots and STEM kids of various types. And my biggest and most important job is to resource those kids and also to be, again, a cheerleader, an encourager, and to set very, very high standards and then to support and encourage them as they work hard to meet it.
Wonderful. When do this come to a vote? So far as
So this is next year.
Next year.
So the election is November of 2022. There will be a primary prior to that. And so I've got a lot of time to be out there really listening and learning and talking to folks and allowing them to get to know me. You know, one of the challenges of this race is being a teacher is a little bit like, there are other jobs like this, being a doctor, being an airline pilot. You have to actually be physically present in order to do your job. I'm not a politician. I have not run for office, but I have to be physically present to do my job. And so it has, I haven't served on every committee in the city of Lakeland. I've certainly done a lot of things. I was the director of community development for Lighthouse Ministries. I run an urban farm. We do all kinds of things in the community, but I am eager for people to have the opportunity to get to know me as I am eager to get to know them.
Okay. All right. Well said. God, you do a lot. Jeez, you do a lot. You're a school teacher.
Yeah,
And you're running for, a seat in the House.
absolutely.
And you got an urban farm. And
I got a lot of other things.
you're with Rise.
So,
and
yeah. So
how do you find all the time?
Well, everybody has the same 24 hours. I had great parents, and my parents, man, my mother can work me under the table now. And my dad passed away about 15 years ago. He was a veterinarian. His practice was Cleveland Heights Animal Hospital, Tom Houghton. And I have 3 brothers and their wives in town. And I grew up working in that small business. And when I say I grew up working, I mean I grew up cleaning cages and scrubbing floors. And, that's what you do in a family business. And my dad trained all of us, my brothers and me, to always do what is in front of you to be done. And you do it to the very best of your ability. And he did it as really just, I don't know that he ever said it. He just lived it. And I'll tell you, hopefully I can tell this story without crying. But I remember I was probably 10 or 11 years old, and I worked all the time at the animal hospital. And I remember there was a sink of dirty dishes. I mean, this would have been in the early 80s. And we had this little tiny break area. It was just this area in a hallway, sink full of dirty dishes. And, I saw that it needed, and it was gross. It'd been sitting around for days. And I didn't think a whole lot about it, but I just did the dishes. And I remember my dad walked by and he said, I have been waiting all day to see who would take care of this. He said, reached his hand in his pocket. He said, I've had a $20 bill in my pocket just waiting to see who would do this job. And I am so proud that it was you. And you want to teach a kid to always work hard? You say a few things like that at pivotal moments in their life. And, you know, I just enjoy helping people. I enjoy solving problems that people think are impossible. That is my favorite thing to do. And enough of my friends have figured that out now that when they really need something, they'll call me and say, hey, I've got something and I just don't think it's possible to solve this problem. Because they know what lights me up. And difficult challenges are energizing to me.
Okay. You're that person. You're
It's
that
fun,
person.
Jay. It is so fun. It is just so fun.
That's an excellent story. Your father sounded like a heck of a person.
Yeah, he was really amazing. He believed in people. He would hire people that nobody else really would maybe see something in. And he would see capacity in people that they maybe didn't even see in themselves. And then he would resource them. And I really think, and my dad had all kinds of sayings that I say today. Things like, it's hard to get that warm, fuzzy feeling of accomplishment without actually doing anything. And that is part of kind of what has framed my life.
Man, he sounded splendid. He sounds like a spectacular individual. Yeah. Not enough dads out there like that.
Well, you know, there are some great dads. My husband's a great dad. And I think some of the key to being a great dad is figuring out, and a great mom is figuring out when kids need help and when kids need to be turned loose. Our youngest daughter right now is traveling in a micro RV.
I saw a photo.
Yeah.
She's taking a little adventure.
And
good for her, by the way.
Thank you. And so I think that wisdom in much of life is figuring out when to pour in and when to step back, and just let kids or let individuals fly. After you've poured into them everything you can pour into them, then it's their time.
Right.
And that's been exciting to watch in our own kids and exciting to watch in so many kids that I've had the privilege of working with.
Got it. Parenthood probably being the most challenging job of them all, right? And knowing when to not do something and let them figure it out versus, stepping in and saying something and kind of giving them some direction. I mean, that is a tightrope of a line.
Yeah, and I have made so many mistakes. I think that part of success in most things is just holding on through your mistakes.
Yeah.
But
I mean, as a parent, I've made every mistake in the book.
And I will
I've made
tell
every
you,
mistake in the book. Yeah.
I did not spend a lot of my parenting career as a stay-at-home mom, but I did for several years, and that was the hardest thing I have ever done in my entire life. So, when our daughters were maybe 3 and 5, I became maybe 2 and 4, a stay-at-work mom. So I managed my family's veterinary practice, and the kids would come to work with me, and that was fantastic, and that was far easier than my years as a stay-at-home mom. So I celebrate every kind of parent out there doing the best they can. There is nothing harder.
They've experienced it. COVID gave all the parents a nice dose of work at home with kids. Oh, by the way, you want to maybe eat your hairs, and there we are. Yeah, when my dojo finally opened its doors after the lockdown, I mean, people just came back in droves. Parents are like, "Thank you, take them."
Well, and I've been teaching in person since August 13th when school went back in session. And of course I did the Zoom thing at home with everyone else. And now our model is mostly in school, but we still have some kids that are virtual. And so but you just, Jay, you do this all the time and all the families do. You just figure it out. You just do the best you can and you figure it out. And I think sometimes it's important to normalize the process. And this pandemic, if it's taught us anything, I hope it has taught us grace with one another. I hope it's taught us that we're all just doing the best we can. And the best thing that we can do is love our families, take care of each other, check on our neighbors, watch out for people that are in our lives that don't have a lot of support, and be good to each other.
Amen. Well put. How many hours of sleep do you get? Be honest now. Be honest. Tell me how many hours of sleep you're honestly getting.
Last night was a pretty good night. I slept, I don't know, 6.5 hours, something like that. Then a couple nights before that were more like 4. And I don't set out to do that. I'll tell you, I've had a doctor tell me that he thinks I'm a genetic short sleeper. I am. When I wake up, usually I set my alarm for 5:45, and I can count on one hand the number of times that I've slept through to the alarm, but I just wake up, and I love early mornings. I am full of energy. I make a pot of coffee, and I get started working. And, most of my working day is with lots of people going lots of different directions. Everything that I do in my professional life is project-based. And so in any particular class, I may have 6 or 7 different groups of kids working on different things. And so I need time that I can really think, and I do a lot of writing.
And the morning is right for you.
It is.
Right.
And I am not a late night person. I am the same friends that like to challenge me by suggesting that they have an impossible problem that needs to be solved. The ones that know me well know that after 9:30,
You're done.
I am.
You're done.
Well, and I can be present, but my brain starts to slow down. It's just not the best time for me.
There's a sensation when everyone is asleep and you're the only one awake. There's this almost like you can feel it in the air where it's just complete silence.
Yeah.
There's no static in the air.
And I'm a pretty extroverted person. I like people, but I also need that quiet time. But again, I am blessed with a very high energy level. I just have it, and I'm grateful for it. It's nothing. There's no.
Do you exercise? Ooh.
I get a lot of exercise in my day-to-day life because I'm lifting and hoisting and, Jay, I'm a farmer. I mean,
right.
Like I spend a lot of time really dirty, and I do a lot of
so you got
heavy
farmer
physical
strength.
labor.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't take time now.
No, like you're not going to the gym or
I've
going
been a
doing
member-
Pilates or yoga or
there's
run the
no-
lake.
So, my husband walks a lot, and I enjoy spending time with him anytime I can, walking with him. I have run. So I told you that I grew up as a dancer, and I have really a lot of arthritis in my feet from so many years in point shoes. And it's worth every ache and pain now because that was a really wonderful time in my life. But a lot of running just was not a good thing.
Yeah.
I have been a member of the Lakeland YMCA for many, many years. My mom and dad were both on the board. My dad was part of the group that helped start the Y a long time ago. And so I am a loyal, devoted YMCA member, but I don't spend as much time working out as I would like to. I was kind of a 3-day-a-week lift weights sort of a person.
I think you're
but-
blessed with genetics and energy, right? Whereas, like, you know, I don't
Yeah,
ever
I don't
foresee
deserve-
you. I don't ever foresee you getting overweight.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah,
I
you-
don't
and you're gonna
deserve
have-
a bit of it. I really don't. But some of it, I think, is just the pace of the life that I just really enjoy. I enjoy physical labor, and
Okay.
I do a ton of it.
All
and
right.
so, but I ought to. My doctor is going to be listening, and I'm going to get fussed at. I definitely should have a goal of spending more intentional time getting cardio workout.
Right. Okay.
Yes, that would be good for me.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question. You've heard it before.
Because I'm a fan.
Thanks. Thank you. You know, I didn't think people would actually listen to this podcast. When I first started, I was like, you know, there's going to be a handful of people that listen to it. No, there people are listening.
Yeah, we listen. Come on, man.
Okay, all right.
We're the
So
silent masses.
That's right. Okay. So what do you want, Jennifer?
You know, Jay, I tried because I knew this question was coming, and so I kind of tried to think about it. And to be honest with you, I was having a really hard time. I want my life to make a difference. I want to be a part of, I don't know, I think the best word is thriving. The Bible calls it shalom, just that idea of all things well or all things right. I want to pour out my life helping that happen in our community. That's what I want to spend my life doing. And I've done it in one way for a long time, and now I'm looking forward to the privilege potentially of expanding that to be able to do more good in the world. That's what I want to do. That's what I want.
I would ask you, and you know me, I would ask you, okay, what do you want for yourself? But I don't think you have another answer in your bag on that one, do you?
That is for myself. I mean, that is how I am wired, and that is where my greatest joy comes from. And it is in many ways, it is for me. There is nothing that makes me happier than finding a way to get something done that nobody thought was possible, or watching a kid light up because for the first time they're asked to do something that's real and meaningful and important to them. And that's, sure, it is in service of others, but it makes my heart sing and it brings me joy because it's the way I believe God made me.
Wonderful. How do people find you?
Well, goodness, there are so many ways. Jennifer at jennifercanady.com. You can find me on my website. I'm all over social media. And man, I'd love to sit down and have a cup of coffee with anybody who wants to have a conversation.
Wonderful. Thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for the privilege.
Yeah,
This was
yeah.
super fun.
I'm glad you were able to make it.
Yeah,
All right.
appreciate
All right.
it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Jae Choe Show. Brought to you by Karate Beyond. Discipline, focus, confidence. KarateBeyond.com.